Good afternoon. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It is Tuesday, April 28th, 2026. It's just after 3 o'clock, and we're back on S327, the Economic Development Bill, to hear about the fiscal note from Pat Titterton of our Joint Fiscal Office. Thank you for coming back. I know you're all running around in different committees at different points in time, so we appreciate you coming back to see us on this one.
I have to completely shift my brain space right now from income to income and healthcare taxes to economic development.
Yeah, you didn't all get out of your head while you walked down here.
Let's hope not. But Patrick Titterton, Joint Fiscal Office. I am sharing my screen. This document, as the chair mentioned, is on your website. And I guess I'll probably mostly focus on the provisions I think you all care the most about. But I guess starting with the fiscal impact section, there's sort of two pieces in here. One is the per diem aspect as it relates to the convention task force and the additional meetings. The normal estimate we have for process we have for that is gets us to that $9,600 per diem cost. If Representative Duke was still here, she could attest to this, and Scott Moore has confirmed to me. During their 6 meetings last year, there were no actual per diem costs because they weren't claimed. So they were eligible, but ultimately opted not to claim them. But from an accounting perspective, normal process would put the estimate for that at $9,600. And so the other sort of piece here has to do with the veggie program. So I guess I'll just to be very clear on what the repeal language had said. So what this language does is removes the sunset, right? What the sunset, if it had gone through, would have stopped BEPC's ability to issue new awards, but awards that had previously already been issued would still be sort of on the books. And so if the sunset had gone through, that 2.2 million, which is from their latest report on what was actually paid out, that would sort of have a slow sort of ramp down over time, ultimately going towards zero. So what the language that you all have and what Ways and Means had in their amendment language was to remove the sunset on BEPC's ability to continue awarding new awards.
So they can keep awarding.
They can continue awarding. The sunset would not have taken this cost off the books right away. It would have had a slow ramp down at 2 months. So the other piece also is the final approval cap for the program had been set at $10 million. After going and looking at veggie reports, the annual reports that they do, it did not appear that they had been over 10 million at any point. And remember, they have the 10 million final approval cap with a contingency where they can come back and request 5 million more from JFC. So as far back as we looked, they had not been over the $10 million figure in a very, very long time. And in many years, they're under the $5 million limit, which is what this language is proposing. So this language would likely trigger them to need to come to JFC a little bit more often to request that contingent 5 million. Mm-hmm. But not necessarily, looking at the report consistently. And sort of I think the conversation I heard in Ways and Means about, lowering this cap, but allowing the sunset to go away was that, previously the sunset, or I guess currently still technically, the sunset acts as sort of a check-in on the program, see how it's doing and all that. So kind of like clockwork, every couple of years, the legislature is back looking at the same language, right, about the sunset and the repeal of it. So instead of doing that, with the lowering of the cap and thus triggering them to come to JFC on occasion for their 5 million contingent amount, that can sort of act as a check-in on the program and how things are going. So I think those were sort of the two primary fiscal impact pieces of what's coming to you. We looked at, and you heard a testimony about the business resource and growth inventory study. There's no fiscal impact associated with that. We talked about the convention center, the hospitality education study. Again, there's no money being appropriated and no per diems connected with that. Same is true of the apprenticeship pilot report. I guess with the rural industry development grant program, there was that change in there that so it's grants may not exceed under current law $1 million or 20% of the total project cost, and it's the lesser of those two amounts. So the language you have is increasing from 20 to 50%, the lesser of $1 million or 50%, with the ability to award an extra $1 million for a project in a federal disaster area. So I think Rick mentioned about 2.5 currently in the fund, and the Senate construct for the budget right now has a further 2 million. So with the penny, it's just, I think the most important thing to remember is that the any tax associated on a cash transaction is still going to be calculated on the unrounded amount, even though the change, being exchanged may not exactly match that. So because it's being calculated on the unrounded amount, there's no change to how any of those transactions, like in the sales tax, for sales tax purposes, for example, would be calculated.
Right. So no revenue changes as a result of this.
Right. And then there's the CPACE program, which I kind of thought of it a little bit like the town sort of operating as like an escrow agent. Like when you have a mortgage, your lender will actually collect when you make your payment, a portion of that is for property taxes, right? So they will pay it on your behalf because they don't want to lien on your house, of course. So I kind of conceptually was thinking about this setup that way. It's important to remember for the municipalities, they're able to charge for their costs for administering this if they opt to get it to join in. It is not, it is in addition to what their municipal property tax bill is. So it's not affecting their municipal property tax collections. So from those two angles, it's not superseding anything to do with education property taxes. So all just kind of a way to say it's a very complicated program to me anyway, but there's no identifiable fiscal impact to the state.
Not seeing any other questions. So the cost from our perspective is the 9,600. And that is going to be in the General Assembly. Yeah, budget. So no additional money. All right. Any questions that anybody has? Yes, time to have a short one. Okay, are people ready to vote on this bill? We don't have any amendments on this one. We're waiting for the amendment on the other bill. Maybe by the time we're done, we'll have O'Grady's amendment on the other bill. All right, if that's the case, I'd entertain a motion to approve S327. And is it as amended or what is it? John and Lynn? We'll do the right wording.
Yeah, the motion is act favorably reports as 327 is passed the Senate, amended by House Commerce and Economic Development, further amended by House Ways
As it means. Okay, great. Any further discussion on this bill? Seeing none, clerk's ready, please call the roll.
Representative Blooming,
Yes.
Representative Dickinson,
Yes.
Representative Feltes,
Yes.
Representative Kaczynska,
Yes.
Representative Roche,
Yes.
Senator Wicki,
Yes.
Representative Knight,
Yes.
Representative Squirrel, yes, Representative Stevens,
Yes. Yes.
Representative Yakuboni,
Yes.
Representative Shy,
Yes.
11-0.
Okay. Great. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming back down. And we're all set. So we'll put this, give this to the clerk this afternoon. So that would be probably Thursday, Friday. Great. Thank you. Great. Thank you. Bye now. I don't think I have anything yet from. Let me just check. All right. So We'll all sit tight, but let's